Hi guys, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Okay, let's get you guys all up to date with the weekly goings on with XRP and HBAR. So starting off with XRP, we have Monica Long saying the switch has been flipped for XRP with institutional adoption. So I wanted to cover this because of two reasons, the positive and I don't want to say the negative, but just the reality, right? So the flip the switch, like that's a comment that a lot of people hear, and it's that buzzword that they think about when they, believe XRP is going to hit $10,000. Monica Long is saying here, the switch has been flipped. Institutional adoption is now happening at like a very fast pace. And so the first thing I just wanted to point out to you guys, and again, this is not me being negative, there's a positive to this, so just bear with me. The thing that I was just trying to say, guys, is that, XRP has not reached $10,000. A lot of people thought that once this, this magical switch has been flipped, then, every bank in the world was going to be using XRP and the price was just going to rise exponentially. That wasn't what they meant when they was talking about it. They was just talking about adoption. And that's what they mean. They were just saying flipping the switch in terms of going from the older traditional methods to now the new, more modern methods, which is crypto technology. And that's happening. But it wasn't to say that every bank was going to specifically use XRP. They were just talking about crypto in general. And obviously XRP is a cryptocurrency, so that would be included. And so, yes, this flip has been switched. We are seeing institutional adoption occurring now, and it's happening at a much faster rate. But the positive about this is what we're seeing now is adoption. So regardless of the fact that it's not $10,000, what we're now going to see is the groundwork being laid for value to be added over time. So it's not a negative thing. It's just, being a bit more grounded with your expectations. That's all I'm saying here. There's a lot of stuff going on here in terms of XRP being utilized, which to me makes me excited. I think it's great to see the adoption that we're seeing. I never expected every bank in the world to be using XRP. I just didn't believe that was realistic. So for me, seeing what we're talking about now in terms of the adoption, I'm happy with that personally. I'm genuinely happy with that. So I think this is great to see. So definitely recommend you watch the full video because I broke it down a lot more and gave you a lot more information about what this means and the positives from that. Okay, moving on. XRP yield options. Yeah, so with this, what I was just talking about was there's basically the Evernorth CEO, his surname's Burla or his first name's Burla. I think his surname's Burla, but they keep calling him Burla. And he was basically talking about different ways to make yield with XRP, and he was basically saying look, don't just leave your XRP idle, make it work for you, make it earn you a yield, so you're making some passive money, some extra money on the side. So I was just going through this in the different avenues. So I do agree with wanting to make some extra money with XRP. You've worked hard to invest into this asset, why not have it earn you a yield, etc. But I will say this, it is going to come down to the different options of what you want to choose. So for example, you could say that you want to just get a loan where you use the XRP as collateral and do it that way. Now the yield for that might be quite high, but the problem with that is you've got to worry in terms of can you get liquidated? You're in the crypto scene right now, which is still very volatile. So you could use that XRP as collateral to get you a loan, but is it possible that you'll get liquidated in this current state of the market with how volatile it can be? So you might think, for example, well, let me try a safer option. Let me go into investing into a tokenized property. That way I've not got to put as much in, or even if I do put this in, it'll be a lower yield return, but it'll be a lot safer because you're not going to get liquidated, right? It's a lot safer in that regard. So it's going to come down to what your risk appetite is. For me personally, I'm not doing a loan at the moment just because the market is too volatile. So I'm not here to take that risk personally, but that doesn't mean what I'm saying is the right option. It comes down to everyone's preference, as I'm saying. So, if there's other people who are, a lot more comfortable, you might be able to take a loan out and be successful with it. Or it might be that you get with a company that, if it gets to a point where you're going to get liquidated, they might come to you and say, hey, look, you've got an option here. You can either try and put some more cash in to subsidize, the money that you need, or you can put more XRP in, but you're about to get liquidated. What do you want to do? If you leave it, then you're going to get liquidated, that kind of thing. So there could be people who can, navigate this in a good way and still be successful and have no issues. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer to this. I really do just think it comes down to your preference. Again, I recommend you watching the full video because I've given a lot more, detailed breakdowns and whatnot of options that you have. But I do agree that it is a positive thing to try and get more yield out of XRP rather than just leaving it idle. I think it's great to try and make money, but you've got to decide what you think the best way is to make that money and what you're comfortable with. Okay, moving on. We've then got the XRP whales, who are still buying in 2026 despite the current market activity. And also, basically, there's an indicator. It was the NUPL, which was the net unrealized profit and loss metric, which was historically saying that we're at the bottom of the market right now. So the reason why I just wanted to cover this is because obviously with where we are in the market, a lot of people are frustrated. I understand that completely, and we didn't know where things are going. So what I was just trying to show you is that you've got the whales here who are, very wealthy. They put a lot of big money into these, these investments. They're still invested in XRP, which what I'm saying is that's a positive because it shows you that the big money still believe XRP is going to make more profit for them, right? They still believe it's going to continue to grow in value. So that's showing you that the smart money, as they call it, are still here. That they're still believing in XRP long term and they're still investing. So that's a good sign, right? If they completely start to go away, that would kind of show you that they're losing faith. They're thinking that there's other opportunities out there. They're not, adding to their positions. But that's not the case at all. Like, new people are buying, other whales currently holding are buying more. So that's showing you that there's a lot more potential here. And the metric there that historically says that we're at market bottom. Yeah, as I say, like, this is indicating that, not to say that this is 100% the very bottom, like it could go down, 4 or 5 cents or whatever from here, but we're basically around the bottom now, give or take a few cents, that kind of thing. So if that is the case, then all we can do from here is start to move up, start to build on that. So again, this isn't me saying that, hey, the bull run is now in play and we're going to start moving up as of tomorrow. I don't know how long it's going to take or whatever, and we don't know how accurate this data is. Like, things could be different from the last bull run and last previous market data. But if we are going by this information that we have, we've got whales who are accumulating, and we've also got data that's indicating that we are potentially at the market bottom right now, historically speaking. So there's potential there. I don't know how long it could take, but all I'm saying is it seems that there's still long-term value coming for XRP from what we can see. Okay, moving on to Hedera then. So we've got the Hashgraph Association joining the Mastercard program. This is just basically a program where they'll be working with Mastercard for different types of use cases and also integrating with global commerce. We're basically just talking about adoption, like pilots of adoption. And again, this could be things that lead to a full production thing that goes live. You never know. I think it's great. It's not just Hedera, but at the end of the day, I've said this before, we're talking about a multi-chain future. It was never going to be just one chain to rule them all, so that doesn't surprise me at all. But what we're talking about here is, we're talking about mainstream adoption now. We're talking about Mastercard. Like, Mastercard is a huge institution. So then working with the Hashgraph Association, like, that is massive. And the post that they said, like, it said, this is what Hedera have been building themselves up for. This is what the Hashgraph Association has been waiting for. This is what they've been building themselves up to do. So, like, this is exactly the kind of thing that we've been wanting to see, and we've seen it now in real time. This adoption is happening. It's a big deal. It really is. Okay, so moving on, we've then got Widen, who has joined Hedera. So quick stats for you then about Widen. Institutional trading giant that serves 250 million plus customers. They're connected to over 70 trading venues. Clients include Guarantee BBVA, Flatex, Digero, and Badar Bank. They serve banks with 250 million plus customers combined, and joins 130 plus THA, which is the Hashgraph Association members, including OKX, Archax, and Swissborg. So yeah, absolutely massive here. They're basically like a middleman between banks. They're kind of like a financial plumbing. So they connect a lot of banks together and also do a lot of trade and settlements and stuff like that. So they're then going to be putting this through the Hashgraph now. So a lot of these banks who will be doing a lot of these trades and that kind of thing, they'll now be doing it on the Hedera Hashgraph. I think that's huge. I think that's absolutely massive, because all these banks now, if they start to see a difference in the service, an improvement, they could then start to want to ask questions about Hedera, which could lead to them wanting to directly connect with Hedera and build on Hedera. So the opportunity there, in my opinion, is huge. I really think that's a very, very big deal. Again, I recommend you just watch the full video so you can get the full breakdown, but Widen are very impressive, and I think them joining, like, it's going to definitely help the adoption with Hedera, so definitely one to watch there. Okay, and finishing up, we've got Hedera talking about what makes them a lot better than other networks in terms of performance, right? So they're basically talking about the fees, and the fees being a huge issue in terms of some networks with like congestion. So when I read this, I'll be honest with you, it sounded to me like they was talking about Ethereum. It really did. But basically they're saying, like, you know, when it comes to certain types of use cases like microtransactions, so if you've got like micro agents doing microtransactions, if the gas fees are fluctuating, so, you know, 1 second it could be like $5 and then it can fluctuate up to like $15, for example. And also just adding into, you know, the fact that congestion can lead to the transactions failing as well. That can drain a wallet very quickly. Like, you could have a budget to you know, put through X amount of transactions, but you don't know what the price is going to be from one transaction to the next. So that budget could get drained very quickly if it gets very busy. Also, the transactions might not even go through. So you could have, like, out of like 10 transactions, you might only get 4 that go through. The other 6 have been failed and not successful. Like, who's going to want to deal with that, right? You don't really have that with Hedera. Plus, the fees are fixed in USD. So even in regards to like other networks, a lot of other networks, they do their fees just connected to the token. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of other networks, you know, the tokens are cheap. So the transfers are cheap, sorry. So it's still not going to be that much. But with Hedera, you can literally, like, there's actually a fee calculator. So if a company wanted to, you know, do like, say for example, they just knew how many transactions they were going to do for a year, they could use the fee calculator to say, okay, this is how many transactions we intend to do in the year. And then the fee calculator will say, okay, this is how much it's going to cost you in total. Great. Okay, cool. So I can plan for that now. I can budget that amount of money to make sure I've got the fees covered, and I know that's fine. You can't do that with other networks because it's based on the token, and the token can fluctuate in value. So even just taking Ethereum out of this, like, just based on the fact alone that Hedera do their fees in USD fixed, that's just a game changer in of itself. But, you know, things like the microtransactions, then they're mentioning gaming as well. So, like, you know, if you think about gaming, say somebody wants to buy like a skin for their character, like a costume or something like that, or like a weapon or something like that they want to buy for the game, like, they'd have to pay, obviously, to do that. But if, let's just say, the gas fee is ridiculous, you could end up paying more in terms of the gas fee than what you actually paid for the outfit, right, or the weapon. So that's the kind of thing where, like, this could be, it could be ridiculous, right? Like, you're not going to be wanting to keep doing that, and it's not going to be enjoyable when you know that you're paying more for the gas fee than you are the actual, you know, the actual product that you're buying. The other thing was in regards to like enterprise tracking and things like that. So you're talking about companies that need to like check the location of like deliveries and stuff like that. If you'll keep on having to make these checks to see where things are, but each time the gas fees, you know, fluctuating to a high degree, like, who's going to be happy with that? Nobody's going to want that. So that's going to be another thing where people are going to be unhappy. They're not going to want to keep having to pay these random amounts each time. That could be, you know, going from like literally $2 up to like $15 to $20. Like, that's just not what people are going to want to do. And I will say this, like, I'm someone who's personally had that experience with Ethereum. Like, I used Ethereum a lot in the 2021 bull run, and it was not a pleasurable experience. So I'm speaking from personal experience here as well when I relate to this. Like, I really can see why I don't think personally that's going to be sustainable. And that's why I do think Ethereum, I think it's going to slip through the ranks over time, because once we get to a point where these companies are using these networks based on the actual technology, rather than, you know, it's the number 2 network out there, or it's got the most liquidity on the network, that kind of thing. Once you actually start looking at it as like, okay, well, this is faster, it's cheaper, it doesn't get congested, you don't have transactions that fail, that's where I just think Hedera is just going to completely outshine Ethereum. So I just think over time, like, Ethereum's just going to slip through the ranks, in my personal opinion. And I don't think it's going to keep that place overall long term. We will see if I'm right or wrong on that, but I can't see how people will stick with it. I really do think at the moment they only stick with it because it's the number 2 cryptocurrency, so it's got such a lot of liquidity going through the network. I think that's really what it is. I don't think they do it because it's like the better choice of network. I don't think that at all, because it's just not. We know that evidently. So I just thought that post was really relevant. So I just wanted to share that with you guys and to show you why I do think Hedera has a better long-term future, in my opinion, than Ethereum. But yeah, that's it. You guys are all up to date, so I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching this. If you did like it, please remember to like, comment and subscribe so you can be updated for future XRP and HBAR content. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be alerted on when I do drop a new video. Thank you very much for watching this, and I'll see you all on the next one.